I've never really had access to any of these resources before, and I've never been taught how to think this way before. And so it's difficult, it's really difficult, but that means you're learning.
I'm Maria Elena Chavez Echeagray. I go by Helen Chavez. I work mainly with first-year students. I kind of feel responsible to give them the tools that they need at the beginning, so to make the work of who's coming next a little bit easier in terms of the skills, help them a little bit with being more independent. For most of them, this is a big change for them. And on the top of that, we're trying to teach them a lot of things.
Yeah, well, this was actually the first course I ever took at ASU. This was literally the very first course and the very first Monday I ever had.
Whatever you are creating, whatever you are designing, whatever you are developing, someone is going to be using it. So you need to think about who is going to be using your product.
So this project occupies the back half of the semester, so it's several weeks long, it's very intense. The primary idea is to design a wearable electronic for a person with a visual disability in order to help them at a daily task or in their day-to-day life.
Our prompt for the project was making products for blind people.
That we had to do something to help them navigate through their daily lives.
Typically we have an interview process. This year we actually had 2 people that the class interviewed to ask about various day-to-day tasks, what's challenging, what might be unexpected in the life of a visually impaired person.
We spent like 3 weeks planning the whole thing. You can see that they struggle to stay in that zone of designing and thinking and researching.
Then they have a phase where they're just learning the technology.
Sensors. We use sensors to get information from the environment. So distance sensors, color sensors, temperature sensors, humidity sensors. The students use that, and with the Raspberry Pi, they do all the computation and create all the feedback. And then we use from sound to text-to-speech feedback or vibrator motors, haptic feedback.
Then for about 5 weeks, they make a plan for themselves. We approve that plan, and then they can work however they want.
So normally it's us learning how to use technology, and the goal is how we can define and design technology that is ready to be used.
We designed a hat that sits on his head and basically lets him know when there's an object ahead.
But something that kind of stood out to me is a chess game for people that don't see.
A chessboard that would talk to you and tell you what's going on the board so that someone who can't actually see it can still play.
Made a chessboard. It's not a full chessboard, but it's a chessboard.
And then we have the students review each other's work in the next phase. And now they're working on the final phase, which is implementing that feedback. So kind of going through the engineering process of design, prototype, test, and now back to the drawing board, figuring out how to revise their initial ideas.
But I've never really thought about how difficult it is for them to do things like that, have a lot more fun that other people who aren't visually impaired have. I never thought about that.
And when I finally got it to work, I finally started to work perfectly. It was an amazing feeling.
You're going to be working in companies where the CEO, the CFO, doesn't know anything about technology, and it's your responsibility. So we're trying to move that to the first year, right when we got the students. You are going to be facing that in your real work, where your user is someone who has very specific needs.
I didn't really think about the aspect of helping people. And now that I've actually made this project, I can see whatever I've learned, I've just put to use to make something that has benefited other people. Kind of makes me feel good about what I do here at ASU.